Hey guys, it's Em, and today we're going to go through hell itself. Now, I like Dark Souls too. I know that's a controversial take, but it's one of my favorite games to just casually play. And I just ended up wondering how I could spice this game up a bit, since I pretty much ran every single build I could think of. Then it hit me. Knives are shitty in this game. They're the only weapon type I haven't used seriously because I tried them once and yeah, they're pretty bad, all things considered. So I thought, what a great way to make content. What a great video idea. I'll beat the whole game using knives. Then, for some reason, I also decided to slap a no HUD challenge onto it because I thought the game is pretty. Yeah, dumb fucking reasoning like that will plague this entire run, but it at least helps spice things up a bit. There's also a few little side rules that I want to get out of the way now. We're going to be beating all of the bosses in this game, including the non-mandatory ones. And I'm not going to allow myself to use summons, throwing pots, or anything else that would cheapen this experience in any sort of way. It's just going to be us and whatever knife we choose to use. While I'm making our courageous hero for this run, Bosco, let me tell you about my plan for this run. You know how most challenge runners come in with an expansive database of info or prepare and study for their runs? I didn't do that. The only real rough outline I had for a plan was to get a bleed or poison dagger, because I imagine those would be the strongest types of weapons considering the knife damage itself is pretty shit. Now that our character's made and we're out in the free world, it's time to suffer. First thing we did was kill the stone ring hippo. This is probably the first and only smart thing I do all run. Since knives in this game have low poise breaking ability, I figured this one just made sense to get immediate. Then after that genius move, I found out that the starting dagger doesn't have any sort of bleed at all for some reason.
Oh, I can power stance. Okay, wait. That would be nice. If I could do bleed at least. I'm sorry, this knife doesn't do bleed for some reason. Never mind, I take it back.
And after some brainstorming, I decided to head straight towards Dragonrider. Maybe wondering why I didn't head towards the Forest of the Giants, seeing as that's meant to be the first area. I figured having as many souls as possible early on would make this a lot easier. And considering Dragonrider and Flexile aren't exactly hard bosses normally, I didn't think it would be too difficult. So after I reached the high tower, I was immediately reminded I'm using a knife.
Lord.
The first old knight took 1 minute to kill, and I'm sure you can imagine that I was a little bit distressed by that information.
Yeah, this is gonna be something.
After that, I killed the ancient knight guarding the lever and raised the first platform for Dragonrider, which I know probably raised a few eyebrows because he has an insta-kill exploit, but honestly I forgot about it and that's the only reason I didn't do it, so let's move on. I decided to run past the other knight since I don't want to be 800 before I even beat the first boss and go directly into the fight. Is there anything interesting to say about the fight itself? No, not really. Dragonrider isn't exactly known for being the pinnacle of Dark Souls, so I'll keep this section short. Not much eventful happened in the fight itself, but it unironically took me 5 minutes to kill this man. And it wasn't looking great. Even though I knew knives were bad, I didn't think they were that bad. And technically they aren't. Fun fact about the HUD being off, the weapon breaking alert is tied to the HUD. Meaning somewhere in this fight, my knife broke and I was probably hitting him for 1 or 2 damage a pop. Since knife damage is so ass, sometimes in fights I'm gonna have to pop up the menu to make sure the damn thing didn't break in the fight. A little annoying, but not horrible, I guess, all things considered. Going on to No Man's Wharf, this is usually a really hard area, especially if it's your second one, but that's only if you fight the things. Don't get me wrong, I initially intended on fighting everybody, but then after fighting this double sword guy, I noticed knifing everyone to death would take a while, and considering this is one of the easier areas to run past enemies if you know where to go, I quickly just ran over to the lever and called the boat over.
Let me just call the boat. Hurry, hurry. What's this? Oh, fuck. I think he drops a knife, too. Wait. Did I knock the thing over yet? No, I didn't. I gotta hurry. No, I didn't see that undead soldier. Come on!
And then went back to Marjula to prep for the boss fight, which involved killing the merchant from Volgan. Funny enough, I don't think I've ever done this normally. Unfortunately for him, a player phantom appeared next to me while I was heading back to Marjula, and that reminded me that his set existed, so yeah, he just kind of had a little bit of bad luck.
I'm like, get your ugly ass on, buddy. I might kill him.
So after that, we head straight to Flexile. Flexile's fight isn't too bad. Kinda like Dragonrider, I can't imagine many people were snapping controllers in half over his complex moveset, but there was a different problem. You see, in this boss area, the room slowly fills up with water. Something you wouldn't really notice on a normal playthrough because you'd probably beat him before it becomes an issue. It's not like this will cause you to drown or anything, but it heavily fucks with your movement. Even though I was using the magic ooze to try and kill him before the water could rise, that combined with me messing up rolls cost me a life, which, knowing I only had 2 magic oozes left, and unknown to me at the time, the next time I could get a reliable source of them is after Earth and Peaks. So a lot kinda rode on me winning the next time I went after him, which luckily after a 3-minute fight, I managed to beat him on my second try. Then we set sail for Lost Bastille.
I'm 100% gonna put the One Piece team over this.
I don't think anything could have prepped me for Lost Bastille. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this was probably the second worst area in this whole run for a few reasons. First, the first section of this area. It was a nightmare. The archers were annoying and dealing with them took a while. I didn't have a while because the dogs would attack me. And fun fact about knives, it's very hard to hit the dogs with them in this game. It wasn't relevant in No Man's Wharf because there's only like 1 or 2 of them in that area. But here there's like 9 fucking dogs in this first section and they killed me a lot. And if all that isn't bad enough, a second pursuer spawns here to attack you. And on top of all of that, I have to free McDuff with the bomb method since I couldn't remember where the key to his door was. So let me explain something to you to put this into perspective. My recordings are set for every 30 minutes. All the footage of this section you're seeing is only from my 4th time trying to get through this area. I was so annoyed at how long this section was taking, I unplugged my headset, which is why I don't have any quirky cut-ins for this part. So after managing to reach the second bonfire closer to the Lost Sinner, I took a detour and head over to the Forest of the Giants. I honestly didn't do too much over here. I stocked up on life gems from Granny Malentia, then I walked over to do the first pursuer boss fight. Not much crazy happened. On the second attempt I managed to beat him and I picked up the dull umber for McDuff for when I could eventually save him. I could have fought the last giant since I was here, but since he's not really important or blocking anything, I decided to leave him for later. After that, I kinda wandered around No Man's Wharf for a bit. Given I was a bit stronger, it wasn't horrible, and since I speedran the first time, I didn't really pick up anything. Nothing of note really happened here other than running into Gavlan and Lucatiel.
Aye, Gavlan.
Gavlan. That's my guy. Luke, my beloved?
Since my spirits were higher since I spent a massive amount of time just dicking around in different areas, I decided to head back to Lost Bastille. Not to fight the Lost Sinner or the Ruined Sentinels, but to free McDuff. And after a bit of complicated finagling, I managed to get one of the royal guards to blow up the barrel.
Oh, this is so easy. This is so free. Because then he swings, and I'm right here with it, and then he's gonna shoot, and I'm gonna roll. Watch this.
Were there easier ways to probably do this? Yes, but it is what it is. So now you may think, it's time for you to fight the Lost Sinner. And you'd be right. So next we head to... Given my knife is still dog shit, I elected to go get another one.
So wait, I can get the knife. I can get the knife. I wasn't even paying attention.
And this is the place where I can 100% guarantee getting a bandit knife. I ran through it like normal, except I managed to end up on the lower level of the first cave by accident and got jump scared.
Like,
after that, we fought Rowena, opened Creighton's cell, and head right to Skeleton Lords, which was interesting. Don't get me wrong, even in this challenge, the Skeleton Lords are kind of a joke, but since my damage is so low, I actually managed to see the Lord's attacks. Their base movesets without all the skeletons seem kinda neat, and apparently you can parry them. But disregarding all that, once I got past them, we got to the fun part where all the skeletons swarm in.
oh lord.
You can usually just one-shot them, but with my shitty little knife, it took 3 hits to kill each of these skeletons. So as you can imagine, this fight took a while. As in, this fight was around 6 minutes. It wasn't stressful like Flexile or Dragonrider since the skeletons barely do damage. It was just a little bit tedious.
This is actually insane. I guarantee you even the composer hasn't heard the song this far.
After that, we let the bridge down and walk over to Earth in Peace. Talk to the Stone Trader to get her to move the Marjula, and then I light the bonfire. You may assume my next course of action is to fight Mytha. After leveling my weapons and stuff a little bit more, I was feeling a bit more confident. So I decided to hit the Lost Sinner and get her out of the way since we already lit the bonfire close to her. Also, you may have noticed I didn't follow up on that bandit knife point I made in the last section, and that's because I didn't find it. So, here we're gonna have to fight her with our basic dagger. After losing a life to open the door, we make it to the fog wall, buff with the humanity, then apply poison to her dagger and head off. As for the fight itself, if someone watched this without context, they'd probably assume she's the easiest boss in the game since I beat her in 1 minute. After that, I light the primal bonfire and then I head off to deal with the pursuer in the area and then go save Freja. But I didn't notice I didn't have any branches on me, so I decided to leave him for now, seeing as we don't really need anything from him yet. And I decided to go to the next area. Do not ask me why I decided to do things in this botched order. I honestly don't know either, and looking back on it, it's kind of crazy. Honestly, this area is not that big and the enemies are really easy, so there isn't much to say about it. I fought the Royal Rat Authority, and other than getting blitzed on my first try, then dying a few more times because my knife couldn't reach the little poison rats, I beat him pretty easily after I got rid of him. I then lit the bonfire for Brightstone Seldora, and headed back to... This time I was actually going through the area. Other than getting slapped by one of the priestesses...
This bitch!
And stumbling into Gavilan while saying his name wrong.
Galvin, my guy.
To sell my stuff, nothing really stopped me from reaching Covetous. And as you can imagine, Covetous wasn't that hard.
Yep. Oh. Ow. He can hit them from the ceiling?
Afterwards, as you're probably used to at this point, instead of doing the sensible thing and going straight to Mytha, I went back to Lost Bastille real quick to free Freja, then went further back to Hyde's area to fight the old Dragonslayer. And he immediately shit on me.
Hey Ornstein, hey buddy. How are you doing? Fuck you, buddy. Bro, he's just destroying me. Let me get up. Why am I so bad?
As I said in the recording, it was just me being bad. So after I died that first time, I beat him with little difficulty. Honestly, the run up to him took longer than the actual fight.
Ow. Oh my... Jesus Christ.
Since the Hyde Knights are now awake and I actually have to fight them or else they'll kill me at the dragon. Funnily enough, the Knights by themselves weren't really that bad. Parrying them is pretty easy. It was more so all of them clumped around each other that made it frustrating. So after all that, I went back and actually fought Mytha. You may be wondering where the footage is for this part. I honestly have no fucking idea. I may have honestly forgot to save the recording somehow. Luckily, we'll see her again soon for reasons I'm not going to talk about yet. But in short, her area and the fight itself were pretty easy. Mytha isn't really super difficult, and you can pretty much speedrun towards her if you know where to go. On top of all that, there's a bonfire right above where you fight her, so there isn't really much to say here. But if you were worried about this run sounding too easy, don't worry. I went the straight path this time, meaning the next area was... Iron Keep was the fucking nightmare of this run, for a few reasons we're gonna get into. My introduction to this area was fighting Armored Dennis, the NPC invader.
I'm like, I'm not trying to fight both of you little crusty asses. Like, where did you even... Press it. I got him, boss!
Now, this pissed me off for a while as he managed to kill me quite a few times until I managed to parry him to death.
Yeah, fuck you, Dennis.
But soon after, I learned this would be the least of my worries. The Elan Knights became my worst nightmare for a few days. First of all, they're very fast. Second, there's a lot of them packed together. They aren't so bad if you have a bow or can split aggro, but since I'm using knives, I obviously can't do that. Then there's when I actually have to fight the knights. I don't do enough damage to kill them in a normal string, so I usually just have to parry them to kill them. Problem being, they have two moves. This overhead slash that you want because it's pretty easy to parry, then this poke attack. You have to input the parry pretty much immediately for the overhead, but if they do the poke attack, you have to wait a minute or so before you do it. So this led to a lot of times I went to parry the overhead and then ate shit on the poke. In a few concentrated areas, it wasn't that bad, but this fucking bridge section?
You said not today? What the fuck?
This section alone made me question if this video was even worth it, because now I had to fight a ton of them, pretty much at the same time, while also dealing with an archer shooting at me. And if I got past all of that, towards the end of the bridge is where the Smelter Demon fight is, where I'd have to fight even more of them. And this is for every attempt I'd want to do at Smelter Demon. And if I was to lose the fight again, I'd have to do all of this again, which happened multiple times. Either the guards would kill me, or on the few rare occasions I actually reached Smelter Demon, he'd kill me and I'd have to start the cycle all over again. This went on for so long that the enemies in this entire section stopped spawning. It was that bad. And you may be wondering why I haven't shown any of the Smelter Demon fight yet. That's because he deserves his own section. This bitch was unironically one, if not the hardest boss in this entire run for a few reasons. One, Smelter Demon's stats. Do you know what he's immune to? Bleed. Do you know what my Bandit Dagger does? A bleed. Meaning I was pretty much debuffed this entire boss fight. Well, he's not immune to poison. Why didn't you use Mytha's Blade since you have it already? Do you think this is a Challenger Andy video where I researched this run before I started? I assumed that this Fire Rock Golem would be immune to poison since, you know, he's a fucking rock. So I didn't even try to poison him. Then let's get onto the run specific problem. Like the second part of the name, no HUD. Now, why is this annoying here? Well, when Smelter Demon hits second phase, he has a constant fire damage area around him. Given I can't see my health bar, I'm sure you can understand why this would be a little bit of an issue. It's not like I'll usually die from it since I can pop life gems every time he gives me an opening, but it's more so it lets him one-shot me a majority of the time, if he can land a hit on me. Then on top of all that, my damage is really shit. I don't know why, but once he reached half health, it would take me 5 minutes or so to kill him. Don't ask me how I could get him to half health in 1 minute, but then it would take 5 minutes to seal the deal. And before you type my knife was probably broken, it wasn't. I genuinely don't know what was going on. As for a time frame for how long this fight took, my clips are saved in sets of 30 like I said before. I have 4 sets of clips, and those didn't include all of my attempts. So I feel you can understand what I mean by this took a long time. Even when I beat him, there wasn't some special strategy figured out. It was just an endurance match to see who died first. Luckily after him, the next area is pretty easy. You can kill all the grunts around here with the trap platforms, and the old Iron King, no matter what the run will be, just isn't difficult. I was so confident I just wore the Seldora set the entire fight, disregarding me light rolling to death.
Whoa. Not me rolling into the... That is the first time I've ever died to that.
I pretty much stomped him. After him, we head to the next infamous area. I know a lot of people find Black Gulch and Blighttown very annoying, but I don't really mind either of them, as once you roughly get a feel for what to do, I don't think they're that bad. Though, I'll admit, I did get a little lost during this playthrough, but it did lead to me finding some nice armor.
I'm feeling it a little bit. Scrawny Knight adventures? Scrawny Knight with knife?
After I reached the bottom, the Rotten wasn't very far away. And just like the old Iron King, I decided to wear the Seldora set because I didn't think he'd be much of a threat. So after a cocky failed sidestep attempt,
I didn't expect him to turn.
I steamrolled him. Now, what happened next? Now, sensibly, we would have kept going through the plot, but I'm crazy, so the next few days all I did was grind out the hide chestplate. Why? It looks nice. Doesn't help me with the run at all. I'm gonna skim this section for the sake of this video, but just know, I was here for quite a while. After that, we end up at... You may be thinking, hey how'd you get to Drangleic Castle without fighting Duke's-Deer Freja? I did fight Duke's-Deer Freja. My recording software wants to pretend that I didn't though, so apparently I didn't record me fighting Duke's-Deer Freja or anything in Brightstone Saldora because I must have done it so fast. We will return to this and I will go through this area in New Game, but since I don't want to spoil what my build ends up being by the end of this run, you'll see that towards the end of this video. I remember looking at the wiki and hearing the Chancellor here can give you one of the best knives, the Flamestone Dagger. When I reached him, he wasn't selling any of the DLC weapons, and I'm not exactly sure why. It wasn't super pressing because I didn't know how good the dagger was anyway, so onwards we marched through the castle till a bit of a unfortunate death.
Like yesterday, honestly. I rolled off the map. I may have ended up in the drink, bro.
I decided to take a small detour for something that would actually help with the run, and I went to go get the Giant Seed. Unfortunately, a previous threat decided to reappear.
Not him again.
Armored Dennis. Now, since this is an earlier area, he's easier to deal with, but for some fucking reason, this turtle guy decided to join the fight. This might as well have been the next Ornstein and Smo fight for me, because unknown to me, my knife broke hitting the turtle, and I couldn't notice it because Dennis was hiding after him, so I couldn't see my damage numbers.
Oh my god. This sucks!
So after an unfortunate death, I shanked him.
Yeah, when your boy ain't here.
Quickly picked up the Giant Seed and went back to Drangleic Castle.
Bro. No, I lost the best souls! No! Ooh.
Where we fought the Looking Glass Knight. Now this fight, I'll admit it wasn't hard like the Smelter Demon or anything, just more so annoying. You'd think knives hitting his shield wouldn't be that big of a problem since the hitbox is so small I shouldn't be able to hit it. But no, I managed to clack onto it multiple times during the fight. Then there's the issue of the amount of health he has. He seemed to take a little less time than Smelter did. Luckily for me, he doesn't have a passive fire AoE, but unluckily for me, he can summon NPC invaders. Usually he can only summon one before you kill him, but since my damage is so shitty, he managed to summon two. By itself, his moveset isn't too bad. So other than getting stalled by these two, he himself wasn't that hard to beat. And after him, as we all know, is one of the most infamous areas in Dark Souls 2. This area has the record for being the most aggravating gray hair growing ball splitting area in DS2. And for this run, it was annoying, sure, I definitely died a few times, but if you backstab a few of the mages, it's honestly not that miserable. Especially when compared to Iron Fortress.
Alright, fine. Fuck you, I don't care. Bro. Backstab. I'm sorry, did that two-tap me? Bro, no!
So after easily skimming past the mages, we destroy the Demon of Song as she's one of the easier bosses in this game in general. So after taking the Key of the Embedded, my beloved favorite weapon, we head to the... I don't know if people normally consider the catacombs difficult, but this area wasn't much of note either, and honestly I got through it way faster than expected. At least till we got to Velstadt. I don't even have much to say about Velstadt other than he's healthy. He does a lot of damage and sets a precedent for the bosses past him. As you've probably noticed, healthy bosses are becoming annoying because of how low my damage is. And since they can kill me in 1 or 2 hits, the margin for error is very small. So this is annoying by itself, but then you stack on the fact he has a high resistance to poison. You know, the other main damage type I have. He's apparently not immune to bleed, but I was doing so little with that knife it hardly mattered. This fight actually got me frustrated, to the point where I didn't record myself beating it. I don't know how that slipped my mind, but I guess I was so over the fight itself I didn't record when I won. You're just gonna kinda have to take my word for it. So after all that, we get the King's Room, which was right behind me. So after that, I decided to go get a second Mytha knife, so I fought her on New Game with a bonfire aesthetic. I didn't expect it to be hard, as Mytha's one of the most honest bosses in this game, but I'll admit, this took me a while. Heading back to the main story now, we enter... You might be wondering why I mixed these two together. Mainly because not much happened in either of these areas. Funnily enough, most of the time I spent on this run in Aldea's Key was not due to its difficulty, but it was because I was feeling adventurous and decided to get Aldea's Key. And since I didn't Google anything, I had to find all the torches by myself. Was the reward really worth it? Not really, but the room looked really cool though. And we ended up getting jump scared by a mimic.
This is giving Mimic. I don't know why. Why would you have a Mimic here? Like, that would make the least amount of sense. And I'm right, of course. Oh my god. That one better not be a Mimic. You think all of them are? What?
The Dragon's Eerie, the Guardian Dragon fight was easy. Just imagine the dragon we fought to reach old Dragonslayer in this section. Then we go through the rest of the area as standard. I didn't explore a majority of this area, as I don't think there's much that would really help me in this run around here other than 1 or 2 petrified bones. So I went straight up to the Ancient Wyvern and managed to get the Ashen Mistheart, taking us to the end game. From here we go back to the Forest of the Giants and quickly go through the memories. As in a normal playthrough, this is usually my favorite part of the game, but since we're in a knife only run, I pretty much run past the entire war to get to the Giant Souls. And as for the Giant Lord, after suffering an embarrassing loss from him, we deal with him pretty easily. From here, my pathing gets really messy, and we don't go to any new areas, so we're gonna get rid of the title cards. After dealing with the Giant Lord, I decided to go back to Executioner's Cherry, seeing as he's a boss I always forget exists. Nothing really notable happened in the fight itself. Afterwards, I went to fight Throne Watcher and Defender.
They're just both swinging, like, what do you want me to do?
This didn't end well for me, at all. Like, I lost so many times I respect in the faith just to use lightning because that's their weakness, and still kept losing. I got so frustrated at this point, I decided to go back and fight the Ancient Dragon to blow off some steam. You know, one of the worst fights in this entire game. Then I came back and basically threw myself at these two for the next hour or so. Why are they so bad? They're like Ornstein and Smo, but get rid of the pillars breaking aggro, put it in a flat space where you can't really go anywhere, and they pretty much forgot to make one way slower than the other, or pause from time to time. They just overlap attacks sometimes, which is really annoying to deal with. it's hard to find opportunities to deal good damage to them. And since I have a knife, I still have to chip away at them with little margin for error. Then there's little annoying shit about this fight, like the fact that you can parry them but they can dodge out of being stunned for some reason. Or when I actually got an opening on the big one, he can dodge really fast towards the other. But if I decided to discuss everything that happened in this fight, we'd be here the entire day. In the end, it was a war of attrition. I had managed to down both of them once, and when Defender dropped the second time, I just barely managed to kill Watcher before she revived them. I was stuck on this fight for so long it became a pride thing, and I was so proud of myself for beating them. You could imagine the surprise on my face when Chandra decided to float into the room as I forgot about her entirely. Since I didn't want to finish this off just yet, seeing as I forgot about a pretty big somebody, I warped out as soon as the fight started and made my way towards Vendra, which as you could imagine, wasn't exactly the most difficult fight. A little tedious, but I wouldn't exactly say it was stressful. After this, there's only side bosses we need to deal with before we wrap up. We head back to the Lost Bastille and fight the Belfry Gargoyles, which were kind of a mess. Honestly, I beat them the first time, but the footage got deleted. But me, being a man of honor, and the fact that my recording skipped the whole area for you guys, I decided to use a bonfire aesthetic and fight them again, which kinda caused it to be a repeat of the Throne Watcher and Defender fight. Sure, they don't have as much health as them, so it wasn't horrible, but since my damage was kinda low and they were new game bosses, I got overwhelmed a few times, but just barely managed to clutch it out. After then, we hit to the Grave of Saints, because I forgot to record the other Royal Rat fight, meaning I had to fight them on new game as well, which wasn't horrible, but we had two minor problems. First, I had no idea when the Mohawk Rat would spawn. I know it's difficult to imagine, but I never thought that hard about this fight, so I didn't even really have an estimate how long it would take for him to show up. On top of this, normally you see his health bar when he drops it, but the HUD isn't on, so there isn't a health bar to see. Both of these things together led to me waiting a minute or so, squabbling with the smaller rats, waiting for the larger one to drop, with me hoping that it would drop soon and healing along the way because I wasn't sure how much damage these guys did on New Game. Luckily, I found the boss rat near as soon as he dropped, so we were able to wrap him up real quick.
Bro, when has this rat ever had... Like, bro, you have like 2 hits of health. If you don't get out of my face.
I'm sure many of you were wondering where Last Giant was. And again, I forgot to record him. So then I just went and beat him. It's Last Giant. No matter what run you're doing, this fight is never going to be that challenging. Other than fighting this boar I couldn't remember seeing because I don't often do new game runs on my side characters.
Oh, fuck. Is that, pig always here?
There wasn't too much stopping me from reaching the mages. But the mages on New Game with a knife was pretty stressful. Now, normally you walk in and just smash them up in moments. You don't even really have to bother with many of their attacks as you can kill them really quickly. But with my shitty little knife, that obviously isn't the case. This fight was unironically kinda difficult. The little goons were just distractions. They weren't too annoying. But the mages and the clerics were pressing me. If I hit the mages, one of the clerics would try to chuck a lightning bolt at me. If I went after the clerics, the mages would do his force push attack. As I said, the goons overall aren't really a problem, but the little crawlers could body block me, and the only downwards attack I could have to hit them would require me to one-hand and lock onto them. And with all this going on, the clerics will constantly heal or buff the others. The fight came down to a lot of kiting and patience, mainly because I still had my lightning knife and I was using it on faith enemies. Once I got them away from the mages, it was pretty easy to take them down, and the mages himself couldn't do much against a few heavy attacks, and the remainders were just crawlers at this point. Since the one-handed attack on this knife hits vertically, they went down pretty easily. Then to Freja. Honestly, a lot happened on the way there. Instead of summarizing it, I'll just show you.
Jump from here, go down here. I'm literally a speedrunner. I like how I just learned that just now. Like, Dark Souls 2, man. You know, you always learn something new, no matter what playthrough you're on. First, 800th, there'll always be something for you. Like, never mind. Game shit. Game is horrible dog water. There's an NPC here on New Game. Fuck! I was literally just talking about you, man. Oh, he doesn't take poison damage. What is his poise? This man is wearing robes. He has robes and big pants. Like, what are we talking about? I know it's been a while since I played DS2, but I think I could do this. Oh, he's cooked. He's cooked. He's cooked. He's cooked. How did I awoke every... Oh, bro, what are we doing? We are misplaying. We are misplaying. I have just aggroed every human in the tri-state area. Oh my god. Okay, this is bad. This is... I don't know, man. It might be, You know, I think there is a way we can do this, honestly. It involves running past enemies, which you can't do in Dark Souls 2. It may or may not work. We're gonna have to find out. Who's in the door? This thing? Who's this? Oh, he's used to playing Elden Ring. I need you to get out of the fucking doorway. Like now. Like now. Like actually right now. Come on. We're good. We're good. I don't think any of them can climb, and the spiders will probably block the guy. Okay, let's not die to Freja. Running past enemies in Dark Souls 2 is impossible, actually.
So after all of that, we eventually reach Freja. And honestly, Freja's fight was kinda simple. Whenever I play this area, I keep a torch in hand. As I'm sure you've heard by now, the torches scare away the spiders, which gets rid of half of this fight's gimmick. But at the same time, it halves your damage output. Given I have a knife, halving my damage on new game difficulty isn't exactly a favorable position for me. Now, Freja in herself isn't exactly hard, but I'm pretty ass at this fight. The big hitboxes and her limbs being off screen never really went well for me. It was pretty long with me panicking a majority of it, but we still managed to get through it first try. After this, we have one side boss left, that being Darklurker. I know most people hate going through these dark chasm areas, but I don't particularly mind them. Given you can parry all these guys and I have a knife, which knives have the best riposte damage in the game most of the time, it wasn't exactly hard to get through this. The Darklurker fight itself, though, was pretty fun. I've only fought Darklurker one time before this, and that was when I did my first playthrough of this game like 1 or 2 years ago. I died a few times to him, but I'll admit they were all pretty much my fault. And after him, we pretty much only have 2 fights left, Nashandra and Albia. Now Nashandra, as always, is a pushover. Nothing of note really happened with her. Aldia, on the other hand, I'm not gonna hype it up like it was the craziest FromSoft boss fight in history, but he was doing moves I didn't remember him having. I initially only remember him having the floor tendril move, but he started shooting fireballs, doing this spirit bomb, and a few other little things. But at the end of the day, Aldia is still Aldia. So after a surprisingly long fight, we managed to beat him, walking away from the throne in search of other answers. While there is a bit more to explore in this world, those adventures may wait for another day. This has been my base game, knife-only run of Dark Souls 2, and I've been out. I'll see you soon, and I am out.